Says I'm live. Well, it says I'm live, but I'm recording this in advance and I'm going to upload it. It's not quite 11 and I'm tired, so I'm going to go to bed soon. But, I post these at midnight, so I'll have it ready to go at midnight. It just won't be live. So, hello and welcome to This Day in History for November 14th. November 14th is the 318th day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, 319th in leap years, with 47 days remaining to the end of the year. November 14th is also World Diabetes Day. Did you know that? Today's word is laser. Laser started out as an acronym that stands for Light Amplification by Stimulated Emission of Radiation. Light Amplification by Stimulated Emission of Radiation. Laser. I see that it started out as an acronym, but of course now it has become its own word. And when you read about or study lasers, you'll often see the word coherence. And my understanding is that that has to do with the way the light stays together in a coherent fashion. Like you can beam a laser from here to the moon. I mean, don't, but it would be possible as compared to regular light that we use every day that diffuses more, that is scatters more. Lasers, pretty handy. There's many uses for lasers. Moving on, I would like to take a moment to mention that links to my research are included in the show notes. Ask you to go ahead and click that like button. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share this video with others. You can do that with a link in your email, messaging, or social media. And also there is a link in the show notes to my This Day in History playlist. I'll be sure to put one up in the corner there in the iCards as well. And you might also enjoy my approach to November 14th from last year's video about it. So there's a link to that in the show notes as well. You know what? If I think about it, maybe I can add a link to that in the iCards also. It just occurred to me. Might be able to do that. Alrighty then, with that, then we're going to move on into the birthday of early steamboat engineer Robert Fulton, born November 14th, 1765. He's widely credited with developing a commercially successful steamboat, the success of which changed river traffic and trade on major American rivers. Robert Fulton lived to the relatively young age of 49, another victim of tuberculosis. That's a recurring theme until they came up with antibiotics to treat it with. A lot of people died before they needed to if they got tuberculosis. That was the case with Robert Fulton as well. This is the birthday of French painter Claude Monet, born November 14th, 1840. He lived to the age of 86. This is the birthday of Belgian chemist and engineer Leo Baekeland, born November 14th, 1863. He's known for inventing a particular type of photographic paper, but what he's really known for is the invention of Bakelite. I first heard of Bakelite while watching the Antiques Roadshow, just to give you an idea of how versatile and durable it can be. Bakelite was an inexpensive, non-flammable, versatile plastic material, and its invention marked the beginning of modern plastics industry. Leo Baekeland lived to the age of 80. Frederick Sonneken first developed the hole punch on November 14th, 1886. Such a device as I have right next to me. I use this every day. Print something out, punch holes in it, and put it in a notebook. pretty handy. Let's see here, the hole punch. On November 14th, 1886, I don't remember if I mentioned that already. On November 14th, 1889, a journalist who went by the name of Nellie Bly, that was her pen name, began an attempt to travel around the world in 80 days. She beat that projection, completing her trip in 72 days. This is the birthday of American composer, conductor, and educator Aaron Copeland, born November 14th, 1900. He's one of those composers, I'm sure you've heard some of his work, whether you realize it or not. He composed a piece called Billy the Kid, Rodeo, Fanfare for the Common Man, just to name a few. Aaron Copeland lived to the age of 90. This is the birthday of Swedish author and screenwriter Astrid Lindgren. Astrid Lindgren. Born November 14th, 1907. Her works include the Pippi Longstocking series, the story about a red-haired girl who had her hair in pigtails and they stuck up just like this, Pippi Longstocking. She usually wore striped socks. What a character she was. And of course, it's been made into live action and animated movies. And she also wrote a book called Ronia the Robber's Daughter, which has also been made into an animated series and I don't know, maybe a live series also. I don't know. My granddaughter introduced me to Ronia the Robber's Daughter one summer when they were visiting. We went and found it, I think, on Netflix and just binge watched the entire series, the whole thing, front to back, beginning to end. It was a delightful watch. And so then I got a copy of the book, read it myself first, and then sent it to her after she got home. Astrid Lindgren, though, has written a number of books. Those, of course, were the titles I could think of right off. And Astrid Lindgren lived to the age of 94. Also born on November 14th, 1907, was author and illustrator William Steig, who wrote several children's books as well, including Shrek. This, of course, inspired the film series of the same name. William Steig lived to the age of 95. This is the birthday of politician Joseph McCarthy, born November 14th, 1908. He became infamous in the 50s for seeing a communist under every rock. Gee whiz. He claimed to have lists of names and proof of all these communists. He never did produce any of that proof. He talked about it a lot, but he never brought it forth. He certainly did whip up a frenzy of fear and paranoia, though, and made a lot of people's lives miserable who didn't necessarily always deserve that kind of treatment. I mean, they did turn up the odd communist or two, but nowhere near the number he was claiming that he knew about. Turns out he might have had a drinking problem. That kind of thing can twist one's thinking and behavior, cause a person to do things that they wouldn't ordinarily do. And Joseph McCarthy died at the age of 48 from acute hepatitis, which can be related to overuse of alcohol, although we don't know that for exactly sure either. What a character. Czechoslovakia became a republic on November 14th, 1918. The Communist Party of Spain was founded on November 14th, 1921. The British Broadcasting Company began radio service in the United Kingdom on November 14th, 1922. The first regular UK singles chart was published by the New Musical Express on November 14th, 1952. On November 14th, 1957, Many high-level mafia figures were arrested at a gathering called the Apalachin meeting at in rural Tioga County in upstate New York. Now, Tioga County is right on the border between New York and Pennsylvania. It's right on the border there. And I kind of looked to see what cities or towns are there. Nothing really rang the bell of familiarity for me, but that's where they were. It's not too hard of a drive from New York City over to Tioga County, and they were gathering up there for a big confab, and a bunch of them got busted. 1957. On November 13, 1960, a little first grade girl named Ruby Nell Bridges was the first African American child to desegregate the all-white William Franz Elementary School in Louisiana during the New Orleans school desegregation crisis. Ruby Nell is close to my age. She's still alive. And I find myself thinking, I see you could easily find pictures of her in her little dress, the first day that she was going to school. Just a cute little first grade girl. And I find myself remembering my first grade. I don't remember the first day of first grade, but I remember first grade and what a big deal it was to be in school, and wondering what it must have been like for her. Ruby Nell Bridges. She's still alive, still has some activism going. I think that she's turned that event to good. On November 14th, 1967, American physicist Theodore Maiman. Sometimes when I gather these reports, I think maybe I make a typo or I dictate them to Siri and she misunderstands, but no, I think his name really is Theodore Maiman, was given a patent for his ruby laser systems. This was the world's first laser. Yeah, American physicist Theodore Maiman given a patent for his ruby laser systems. Mariner 9 entered orbit around Mars on November 14, 1967. And that's all I have for you today. Hope you learned something you didn't know before. I know I sure did. I always do. Remember that links to my research are included in the show notes. Remember to give it a like. Remember that if you're interested in other episodes, there's a link to the playlist in the show notes, and there will also be one up in the corner in the iCards. And let's see if there's anything else. Okay. Yeah, there's a link to last year's episode of This Day in History for November 14th. I've already said that 3 or 4 times. All righty. Well, okay, so it's recorded now, and I'm going to make sure that it appears where it's supposed to. I'll share the link to my Facebook page for my friends there. My apologies for not staying up, but I'm looking forward to cleaning my face and putting on my nightgown. Come back tomorrow and we'll do this again. Thank you so much for watching.